All right. Okie dokie. And move that out of the way. There we go. Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're dialing in from. And welcome to this week's edition of the Koala Wednesday webinars. If this is the first time that you've joined us, we get together every Wednesday and spend an hour talking about what's going on in the world of AI, where there is so much going on, it can be hard to keep on top of things. And so we use this session to talk about one main topic that we've been, working on, or that we think is going to be useful for you, and then get into some other of the new releases. Um, uh, we will go through our normal format. So, firstly, we'll spend probably about 30 minutes today, I think, maybe 30 or 40 minutes focused on our main topic. And that is going to be around people use cases. You might call it human resources, HR, but the use cases for managing people. And I'm going to spend a bit more time today, not just showing you some demos, although I'm going to show you a number of demos, but just talking about the bigger topic of what does AI mean to a workforce, to an organization? How do we structure our people teams moving into this new world? And I'll share a little bit of research and some data points that might be useful in your own conversations internally. Then we'll have our usual AI in the news segment. And this is where we look at any of the new releases, product updates that have happened in the last 7 days. As I say, there's so much going on that it can be difficult to keep on top of it, especially if you're not in our role where this is all you spend your time doing. And so we've siphoned through what's happened in the last 7 days, and we'll give you our thoughts on what are the most important things for you to take a look at. And then finally, we've got a section for Q&A. Now, you don't have to wait until the Q&A section to ask any questions. If you've got a question as we go through, could be about our HR and people discussions. It could be about some of the new releases. Just feel free to chime in. Now, we're on a Zoom here. So if I take a look on my second screen, we've got two things that you can do. There is a Q&A panel that you might be able to see. And then there's also a chat panel. So feel free to use one or both of those. I'll try and keep an eye on them as we go through. And then Caitlin, my colleague, will also keep me honest as well if I miss something. But like I say, don't feel that you need to wait until the Q&A section to ask a question. Just feel free to dive in. What we very much hope with these webinars that we do every week, and it's lovely to see a lot of return faces as well each week, is that they can become a nice place where you can just come in and chat and ask questions. So feel free to do that. With that, let's get into the main topic of today, which I've said is Claude for HR, for human resources, for people teams. And really, as we go into this world of AI, it is putting people teams up on a pedestal in terms of thinking about what does the future of a company look like, and what does an organization structure mean. In fact, the word company comes from military origins, and it meant a group of people, that were focused on a single objective. And that is really what a company has been. It is about the people that are focused on this objective. So what does it mean if there are either less people or different people, or a reconfiguration of those people in the future? Now, to start with, I'm going to walk through a little bit of research. If you've been on a few of these other webinars before, you might have seen this Procter & Gamble study referenced before. It is something that I talk about in every single one of our executive coaching sessions, because it is such a good insight into how it is the combination of people plus AI that drives great quality work. So this was a bit of research that was done in March last year. So it's about 12 months old now. And it was done with Procter& and Gamble. If you had a shower this morning, then you probably used a Procter& and Gamble product. If you've got children, they might be wearing Procter& and Gamble nappies. They are very much one of the largest CPG companies in the globe. And they brought together about 770 of their team, some in the US, some in Europe, and they got them to work on real world tasks. So you can think in Procter and Gamble, this is, coming up with a new product, a new brand, a new campaign. And some of the team they got to work as individuals. Some of them they got to work in a team. Some they gave ChatGPT to, and some they did not. And then the outcome from each of these cohorts were measured blind by a set of Procter and Gamble executives. So the executives didn't know for each solution, they didn't know whether it was an individual or a team, and they didn't know whether it was AI enabled or not. It was just how would you rate the quality of this solution to this problem? And here are the results. So what you can see on this chart is on the y-axis up to the left is the standardized quality of the solutions that came out of these teams. So the higher the number, then the better quality the executives judged the solution to be. Now, the benchmark is the dotted line, and this is an individual with no AI. So that is 0 is the benchmark. Now, we would always expect that 2 minds or 3 or 4 minds are better than 1. And so the blue bar is showing you that a team with no AI was perceived to have a higher quality. But what's astounding is the individual with AI was perceived to have even higher quality than that, and the team with AI marginally more than that. So you might be thinking, Charlie, right, so what you're telling me here is we actually don't need lots of people. If we've got 10,000 people in our organization today, maybe we only need a few hundred with AI, and then we're off to the races. But this doesn't quite tell the whole story. So what they then did was to look just at the top 10% of solutions judged by quality. And what this chart shows you is the proportion of each cohort's solutions that made it into the top 10%. So once again, the benchmark is the individual with no AI, and that was about 6% of their solutions made it straight up into this top 10%. The team with no AI was marginally more, actually slightly less for the individual with AI, but it's the team with AI where about 15% of their solutions went straight up into the top 10% judged by these senior execs. And so this is the point here, that it's not about just AI, it's about the team with AI. It's the collaboration of the diverse perspectives and experiences of your teams, plus AI, that gives you the best outcome and quality. It's not just about doing things faster, it's about doing things better. So why might that be? Well, here's a really good chart from that same Procter& and Gamble survey. So what you're looking at here is just the individuals with either no AI or with AI. Now, on the left, it is showing you the technicality of the solution that was provided. And now think again about Procter& and Gamble. We're making sort of shampoos. Maybe we're coming up with a solution around launching a new shampoo in the German market, for example. And what this chart on the left is showing is that depending on what team you worked in, dictated the technicality of your solution. So in the green, the sort of dark bluey green, is the commercial team. So maybe if you worked in the branding team, your solution for launching a shampoo in the German market was probably heavily weighted towards the name of the brand, the logo, the color of the bottle. But if you worked in the R&D team, the technicality of your solution was probably weighted towards the compound of the shampoo and the smell of it and how that might render well in the German market. So where you come from dictates the work that you do. Now look at the chart on the right. This is showing the individual with AI. So it's the same kind of group of people, obviously different people, but the same kind of groups. And actually the technicality of the solution coalesces around this optimal, which was in fact a more technical solution. And so this means that the people from the commercial background, branding, marketing, who didn't have that technical knowledge were able to come up with that solution because they were combining with, in this case, ChatGPT. So it's really about removing some of these silos from your team. So, what does this mean in terms of how we structure our organizations moving forwards if we've got these teams plus AI that are able to come up with these more quality outcomes? Well, regardless of the industry that you're in, you could pretty much use a pyramid to describe the organizational structure of any company. We've got a CEO up at the top, then we go down to some senior leaders, some VPs, then we go down to our senior managers and high performers that are leading teams, and then we go down to our individual contributors and our associates, graduates, interns at the bottom. And a lot of these roles down at the bottom finish up with something like associate or administrator, analyst. It is a lot of these roles that involve moving data from one system to another, to doing calculations, to doing fairly low-level administration. Now, what do we think that AI is going to do as that comes into our organizational structures? Well, I very much believe we're going to move from a pyramid to a pentagon, where these bottom left and bottom right hand corners of the pyramid get hollowed out and complemented by AI tools. So who's going to use those AI tools? Well, it's going to be these high performing individual contributors in the middle of the organization who are going to surround themselves with a Claude, a ChatGPT, a Gemini, a Claude for Excel, a Cowork, and they're going to be using the tools instead of relying on a junior team, an administrator, an analyst to do this work for them. So a pyramid to a pentagon is definitely where we think things are going. Now, this introduces some interesting challenges. Well, if you don't have the bottom of the pyramid, where do the people in the middle of the pentagon come from? And this is definitely a challenge in these very large organizations that have taken graduates in and moved them up through the organization. I don't have an answer to that in the medium term, but I still believe that the Pentagon is the approach that we're going to take. And so organizations need to think about where do we get those people from if we can't migrate them up from the bottom of our pyramid. I was on X the other day, formerly known as Twitter, which is where I spend a lot of my time learning about what's going on in the world of AI. And someone posted my new, I can't remember the phrase that he said, but my new sort of put down for someone is your job is just a skill waiting to be written. And I'd like to think that maybe he was saying it a little bit in tongue in cheek and was not actually saying that to people. But it's a really good point about how so much of what work is being done at the bottom of the pyramid and even up into the middle of that pyramid, and even, dare I say, at the very top of it at the executive level, is just a skill waiting to be written. Someone that's writing job descriptions, someone that is writing one-to-one updates, someone that is reconciling the accounts, someone that is writing out customer success updates to customers. So much of this is just a standard operating procedure, a thing that sits in someone's head and they are doing that work. But this could so easily now be written down into a skill. We're going to talk about skills in a minute if you're not familiar with what a skill is, and just automating so much of this work. Last week, I think it was, could be a couple of weeks ago, Anthropic, the company that is the maker of Claude, one of the big LLMs, published a bit of research looking at different occupational roles and what their perception is of how AI is capable at dealing with those roles today and what they're seeing in the analysis of how people are actually using Claude to perform those tasks. So what you can see in this chart around the side are all the different types of occupational role. And what I'd point you towards is sort of the top right, where we've got business and finance and management, these types of more knowledge-based work. And what the blue is showing you is Anthropic's assessment of AI's ability to do that job today from 0 to 1. And I mean, it's no surprise to me, but it might be a surprise to you that it's getting nearly to 100%. And this is being proved through some other benchmarks that the ability for the AI tools to do what we might think is very complex sort of financial analysis or business management work, the AI tools are there or thereabouts to be able to do it at the level that a human would. Now then you go and look at what the red is, and the red is showing that within ChatGPT, but in this case, Claude, what is the usage that they are seeing that people are doing for these tasks? And it is marginal at best. So there is a huge opportunity for the AI models to pick up this work very, very quickly. And this is going to have impact on who you're hiring into your organization. Because if the AI is able to do many of these tasks, then you want to start reconfiguring what roles do we have in the organization and what work are they doing. Now, what is interesting is some of these other areas that aren't in the top right, especially if you're a parent. I'm a parent of 4 children, and you're starting to think about, what guidance and advice are you giving to your kids? And so when we're looking at things like, construction, agriculture, I particularly like right down at the bottom, the protective service, which I have to assume is being a bodyguard, these are some of the roles where there's still a lot of opportunity and need for a human to be doing these types of work. So with that in mind, this was a chart that was published on X by this guy, Miles Deutscher, a couple of weeks ago. I haven't really been able to track down the actual source of this, or whether it was something that Miles came up with himself. But I really liked the visualization, especially in mind of what I'm telling my children. What he's saying here is that we're really at this point. I think he calls it a K-shaped economy. We're at a point where people can go in 2 directions. This is either individuals or it's roles, it's teams, it's companies. And you can go in one of 2 directions. The first is the red line, which is you say, do you know what? I don't buy into all this AI stuff. I don't buy into it at all. I have been doing my job for 20 years. I know how to reconcile the accounts at the end of the month. I know how to write a contract for a supplier. I know how to negotiate with a potential customer. I don't need any of this AI nonsense. And I'm just going to carry on doing what I'm doing. I know how to write code. I'm going to continue writing code by typing in key by key on my keyboard. And so these are the individuals that are going to face this kind of low agency. I'm just going to do the work myself and carry on. The alternative is the blue line, which is where I'm going to have extremely high agency about what I'm going to do. So it's not just about me doing the work myself, but I'm going to start building out skills, agents, tools that are able to do my work. I'm going to start plugging my email, my calendar into these agents that I'm building. And I'm going to be able to scale myself in a way that I just wouldn't be able to do before. I'm going to be able to learn new subjects. I'm going to learn how to code. I'm going to learn how to be a lawyer. I'm going to learn how to do X or Y. And suddenly I'm growing at a fantastic rate. And I would give you one example from my own sort of career over the last 2 years. 2 years ago, I couldn't read a line of code. I certainly couldn't write any code. But as I went on this AI journey, I wanted to make sure that if I was going to be providing advice and guidance to customers, I'd at least gone on that journey myself. So I started using Claude and ChatGPT and a platform called Cursor to teach myself to code. And I managed to pull together the entire Koala platform, the Koala website, and everything that our customers use today to manage their AI programs. And for me, that has just been such an eye opener that if I can go from not having written one line of code at all to now managing four platforms that we run for our customers, then anyone can learn anything. So, bringing us back to this sort of K-shaped economy for employees in the organization, it's we've got a chance to go one way, high agency, and we are the ones that are controlling the AI by managing our own agents and skills and plugins and so on. Or we go the other route and we say we're low agency and we're the ones that are going to be managed by an AI. Think back to that rather disparaging tweet. Your job is just a skill waiting to be written. And sadly, a number of the people that choose the red line are going to find themselves in that situation. So, what do I think about the employee of the future? It's that blue line, it's that agency, it is the human plus AI working in combination. So, I think about a few phrases that jump to my mind, like AI native. What does that mean? It means someone that is just embedded in using AI in every single task that they do. It's someone that is AI first. When a bit of work comes across my desk or I get introduced to a new opportunity, a new objective, the first thing I do is talk to Claude. How is it that we're going to solve this? I don't, battle on and come to Claude as a last ditch attempt. I'm AI curious as this employee of the future. I'm not using AI because it's my job. I've been given Excel, I've been given Outlook, I've been given Gmail. Oh, it's something that I have to use for work. I'm enjoying my own human ability to take on new knowledge and experiences. And this is why I'm using these tools. I'm multiplayer. I don't just use AI as my dirty little secret when someone asks me a question and I say, I will answer your question, just give me 10 seconds, suddenly go and ask AI and then come back. We're using it openly and publicly. We're in a meeting with our colleagues and we're building out our strategy and we've got ChatGPT or we've got Claude up on the screen. We're using voice mode to include these tools in the discussions with us. And just generally, and this should always be great behavior for an employee of the future, we're in a growth mindset. We're thinking about how do we develop ourselves. We're not, a rock that just said, no, I know what I'm doing. I learned this at university. You can't change me. We want these people that are like, we're in an uncertain world, an uncertain future, and this is what we're going to be learning about. With that in mind, I think a lot about interviews and how do we get these types of characters into our organizations so that we can be prepared for the future. And I definitely encourage people to think about their interview process and when they're bringing people into the company for these interviews. To introduce this kind of task in the middle of the in-person interviews. So great, we're going to take a break now for 30 minutes. I'm going to leave you in this room. You've got your laptop. When we reconvene, I'd like you to present to me how you would use AI to accelerate the speed and the quality of your work in this role. So this is not a prepared task. This is not something that you've told them 2 weeks in advance. Oh, I'm going to ask you to show me how you've built a skill or whatever. This is on the fly. Right. What is it that you do to introduce AI? Now, someone that is an employee of the future, when you come back in that room 30 minutes later, is going to go, right, you've told me about the role. You've told me about the culture of the organization. I've built a skill and I'm going to show you how we're going to use that skill that is going to help me to prospect for new clients, to onboard new customers, depending on whatever their role is. If someone comes back in and they've basically just asked ChatGPT this question, you're going to be able to quickly figure out how to separate the people that are on this and the people that are not on this at all. So that is my theory and my lesson on what's going on in this world. Hopefully, there's a couple of screenshots or ideas and reports in there, and we'll send out the links to those reports after this that can help you to think a little bit about what your organization is going to look like. I think, in short, to summarize that. I don't have the answer. I don't know. No one knows. Even the Anthropics and the open AIs, they don't know what is going to happen in the future. What I can say from my experience is that there are things that I'm doing today in my work that only 6 months ago I would have gone, I need to hire someone for that. I need to hire someone for that. And I don't need to do that now. It's allowing us to go further, faster. And this is just going to have an impact on the way that people hire and staff at their organizations. It just has to. So now let's get into some demo bits and pieces because we're at half past, and I always love showing you a few bits and pieces that can give you some ideas that you can play around with. So you might have seen let me just double check. I am sharing my entire screen. Yes, perfect. You might have seen in the news over the last sort of few weeks, every time that Anthropic drops some new product release, share prices collapse in companies that are selling SaaS software relating to certain industries. And a lot of what is driving that is plugins that Anthropic are releasing. So here I'm in my Claude desktop. So this is not in my browser. This is my Claude desktop. So running here in my dock here. And you'll notice up at the top, we've got three tabs. We've got chat, we've got Cowork, and we've got code. And so I'm in Cowork. And what Cowork is a kind of agentic platform. What does that mean, Charlie? That sounds like a buzzword. It means that it gets on and does stuff. So it's not just optimized for coming back to you with a chat, with an answer. It's for actually going and doing something, some work for you. Now, in Cowork, Anthropic has launched a number of plugins. So if I click on Customize here, and I go to click on Add a plugin and Browse plugins, then you're going to see Anthropic have got a number of plugins that they've added in. So data, finance, oh, human resources. Oh, we're on an HR webinar. Let's have a look at that one. So HR, human resources, plugins. What are these things? Well, there are 6 different commands, sort of a backslash command. So I want to do some comp analysis. I want to draft an offer for a candidate. I want to do some onboarding to build an onboarding plan for someone, and so on and so forth. So these are basic sort of tasks that are like pre-built prompts. And then there are 6 skills here: compensation benchmarking, building an employee handbook, interview prep, org design planning that we've talked about, and people analytics and a recruitment pipeline. So let's have a look at one of these. So interview prep, for an example. And this is what a skill is. It's super basic. It's just a bit of text. Interview prep. Create structured interview plans to evaluate candidates consistently and fairly. These are the interview design principles. Needs to be structured, competency-based, evidence-based, so on. Interview plan components. Here are the role competencies, a question bank, and so on and so forth. That's it. I'm not scrolling down any further. That is the skill. So let me go back here and go, right. Can you use the interview skill to help me plan for an interview with a candidate? Now, because I've got this plugin built in, it's going to use that skill, right? I'm running the skill. Great, let's build a structured interview plan. I need a few details to make this useful. And it's going to ask me some questions about the interview. And it's basically using the skill plus its knowledge of Koala because it knows what we're working on at the moment. So are you hiring for an AI consultant, a solution architect, or someone in a sales or BD role? And it would guide me through that process. Now, this is what was hammering the share prices, is because the general feedback is that you can go and buy an HR SaaS platform that is got some AI widget in it, and is going to guide you through this. And you might spend 50 or 100K on it. General feedback is Claude with these skills is giving people just as good or better an outcome than paying another system that has written those skills on your behalf. So if you're in a people role, I would definitely get your Claude Cowork set up. I would get the HR plugins and I would start playing around with some of those ones. Now, the goal is not that that plugin is the end result for you because there's more to your business than what is in that skill, but it's going to get you 60% of the way there. And then you can start customizing these skills. If I go back to human resources here, we can customize those skills so that it can really reflect exactly your business and your process. So that's demo number one, accelerating your people processes. The next one that I want to show you is about just giving all of your people, so not in just your people team, but everyone, easy access to information. So if I go back to my Claude here, and I'm just going to go to chat, and what you're going to see is that you get an Ask Koala project. Now, I did notice there was a outage on on Claude 5 minutes before we started this. So let's see if this doesn't work. So it gives you this Ask Koala, depending on what the name of your company is. It'll say Ask Acme or whatever it might be. And this is kind of a curated project that everyone in your company would have access to if they've got a Claude license. And it will search the systems and tools that you give it access to. So here we use Google Drive. So I've given it access to Google. We use Granola for all of our call recordings. So I've turned that on. And then whilst we don't use Slack a lot ourselves, we're added to a lot of Slack channels by our customers. So I've added in Slack there. If you're on a Microsoft estate, then you'd be able to turn on Microsoft connectors for SharePoint and Teams and so on. And then what this is provided with, this comes from Anthropic, is a very sort of bespoke project instructions to guide Claude through searching your internal systems. So let me give you an example here. Hey, Claude, can you help me understand what Koala's remote work policy is? So in our people team, you've probably got loads and loads of policies, expenses, remote work, paternity, maternity, international transfers, whatever it might be. All these policies, they're probably stored on SharePoint. No one ever goes there, and they just go and ask someone from the people team to go and find the information for them. Whereas here, we can put all of that stuff in Google or in SharePoint. And yes, this isn't working right now. Beautiful. Let me have a look at the status update, see what was going on. Elevated errors on Claude. So you'll have to bear with me and assume that that works, and I'll re-record it for later on. Let me just double check. Yeah, we've just got some errors here. Let me just ask. Well, we'll see. We might be dealing with the demo gods there. I'll give it one more go, and then I will move on. What this would do is then go and check our Google. It will go and run that search, and then it will pull back the remote work policy from Google. But if it's not working, then it's not going to work. There we go. Lovely. So next up, I want to talk about form filling. So much of what we end up doing as an employee, as a customer of the people team, is filling out forms. Maybe it's a performance review. Maybe it's our goals for the year. Maybe it's our one-to-one notes. Maybe it's reward and recognition. Maybe it's feedback, 360s. It's just filling out forms that go into a system and then allow someone in the people team or an exec level in order to report on that stuff. But a form, which is basically just lots of blank boxes, is just really bad for individuals to fill in. We don't know what to put in. if I'm asked to provide feedback on someone, or if I'm asked to set my goals and I've got a blank thing, it's like, oh, well, what's my goal for the year? Well, sell more. Just put one or two words in there. It's pretty difficult. But AI can really turn this on its head. So let me go back to my Cowork here and show you a skill that we built for goal setting and particularly OKRs. So if I go to skills here and I've got my OKR writer skill. So I'd said earlier, I'll mention what skills are. If you've not been on one of these webinars before, a skill is like a way of doing something. You might think of it as a standard operating procedure or a process or a workflow, and we give Claude the instructions about how to do that process. And so here we've got our OKR writer skill. Now, at its heart, it has a description which just explains to Claude what the skill does and when to trigger it. So when should I use this skill? And then it describes here, what does the OKR writer do? It helps Koala team members write high quality OKRs that follow the methodology. The goal is simple. Every person at Koala should be able to write OKRs that are ambitious, measurable, and obviously connected to what the company is trying to achieve. No bureaucracy, no box ticking, just clear goals that focus effort where it matters. Now, I tell you why this is important, because every organization that I've worked in has had some form of goal setting. Maybe it was OKRs, maybe it was V2 MOM, maybe it was something else. And someone at the top of the business has gone on some training course and said, right, we're doing OKRs, or I've read this book, we're doing OKRs. And maybe there's a little bit of training that flows down to the managers, but very little goes down to all of the people that need to write these OKRs. They don't know that an O is the objective and this is the goal. This is the destination that we're trying to get to. They don't know that a key result is the metric, the measure by which we will know whether we've got there. And they don't know that neither of those things is an initiative, which is what are we going to do? And so what you get back is this sort of blancmange of an OKR, which is a bit of a goal, a bit of a number, a bit of what we're going to do. And they end up with a list of 25 things that we're going to do, which are not OKRs. But because they're starting with this blank box to fill in, they don't know. So we can turn that around by teaching the skill on this is how you guide someone through building out an OKR. So number one, understand their context. What's their role? What are they trying to do? Have they written OKRs before? Do they understand them? Number two, giving the OKR the context of the company strategy. We want each of our employees' OKRs to reflect what the company's goals are, and then collaborate on building those together. And then pushing back if they're not a valid OKR, so testing it out. So in addition to that, we've given the skill the Measure What Matters framework, which is really what with the book that drove OKRs forward. And I've given it the Koala strategy, what it is that we're aiming towards, so that anyone that's creating an OKR can feed into that or can reflect that in their own goals. So let's go here. I'm going to be working in this folder. Hey, can you help me to build out my OKRs? With the caveat that this is very unlikely to work because Claude is having an outage. So can you help me to build out my OKRs? I'm running the OKR skill. Great. And you can see here, it's pulled in the OKR writer skill down here. It's now reading the Koala strategic priorities. Good. I've got the strategy loaded. Let me kick this off. Since you're writing these as the CEO, because it knows who I am, your OKRs essentially are the company OKRs. So the stakes are high. Whatever you commit to here sets the ceiling for the whole team. But before we draft anything, two questions. What period are we writing for? Q1, March to May. I love this. It knows what our financial year is, which is already underway. Or are you looking ahead to Q2? And have you written formal OKRs before, or is it the first time putting them on paper for Koala? Now, obviously, I have done, and I've got the OKRs for the company, but you can imagine someone that is further down in the business that doesn't understand this. Yeah, I have written OKRs before, but I'm just doing a bit of a demo. So could you just imagine that I didn't? And can you just explain to me a little bit about what they are and how I should think about crafting them? And so this is this difference between filling in a form versus having a conversation where this Claude is going to act as a coach and tease this stuff out of me. You know, what team are you in? What are you working in? What inspires you? What do you want to be doing this time next year? All's been baked in into the skill. So I'm not going to carry on building up my OKRs, but hopefully this gives you the idea that when you think about your HRIS system, your performance management, your personal development plans, every single bit of your process that relies on employees filling in forms can be transformed by turning them into skills. So next one that I wanted to show you was about transforming the candidate experience. So we've gone through three things so far. We've looked at you as an HR team. We've looked at easy access to information for the whole employee base. We've looked at getting rid of filling in forms for all of your employees. And now let's think about people that don't even work for your organization yet. And so much of what's going to happen in the future, like I've said, is about finding AI native employees that can come and join the organization. And so traditionally, what would happen? Oh, someone would go to the website. There would be, a form to fill in there. Maybe there's some job descriptions. It's very difficult to get a feel for the organization and the culture. So what we've built is an AI agent called Natalie. If you've been on these previous calls, you will know I basically just name all of these agents after people that I've worked with in previous companies that had this role. It's just so much easier. Like, what did Natalie the human do? Right, let's let Natalie the agent do that. So here we are on our careers page. And do you want to find out if Koala is the right fit for you? Right, chat with Natalie. So I'm going to come to chat with Natalie. Because we want to make sure that we know exactly who's speaking, I'm going to continue and log in with LinkedIn. Use my password there. So I'm now authenticated with my LinkedIn. So Natalie knows what my name is, my LinkedIn profile, my role, company, and so on. And Natalie's able to follow up with that later on. Hey, Charlie, I'm Natalie, part of the team at Koala. Great to meet you. I'd love to tell you a bit more about what we're building and hear a bit about what you're up to. Think of it as a quick coffee chat, not a formal process. So what caught your eye about Koala? Well, I'm really interested in what's going on in the world of AI. I work in quite a traditional company at the moment, and we're not really allowed to use a lot. It's a bit locked down to things like Copilot, and we're using it as an FAQ machine. But at the weekends, I'm having such a great time. I'm building stuff with Lovable. I built something for my kids to use, and I just think that I want to be on the right side of this transition. And it looks like you guys are leading the charge. That's exactly the kind of thing I love to hear. The contrast between AI as an FAQ machine versus actually building the stuff on weekends is so telling. And honestly, that's exactly what separates people that thrive at Koala from those that don't. Now, what's going on behind here is that Natalie has been trained or coached with a few things. I've given her access to skills. So the skill is about having this sort of coffee chat, this initial chat about a koala. So her system prompt teaches her how to have that conversation. But she's also got access to our company strategy. She's got access to our values. She's got access to some tools. So I'm able to ask her, okay, this is great. I do want to have the chat, but can you just give me an indication of what kind of roles you've got open at the moment? She's got access to these tools that are pulled in from our other systems. And so she's able to say, great, this is what we're hiring for at the moment. And then the person can go and have a conversation about those roles, what's involved. Now, what's going on in the background is that this chat gets recorded. Natalie makes a sort of quick assessment on whether someone is a good fit or not, and she will tell the candidate that as well. And if both of them decide that it's worth continuing the conversation, then it'll actually record it as a job application in the back end system, and it'll notify me, and I'm able to reach out and have a human to human conversation with that person. So this is AI in action on the website, LinkedIn with LinkedIn for the authentication, and a great example of how you as a people team can really push what you're doing out into the talent pool. So that brings us to the end of our kind of Claude for HR. Hopefully, there's some good use cases there that it's sort of inspiring you to think about what you might do for your people team, or for your employees, or for your candidates. Now, we've only got about 10 minutes left, and we've got a few things to cover in the AI in the news because it has been a busy, busy week. Now, normally, I'm here banging on about Claude and Anthropic release. And whilst they have released some good stuff, I want to share the love a little bit because there have been a lot of other releases out this week. So the first thing, this was just yesterday, and Google announced some big updates to Google Workspace. So if you're in Google Workspace, you'll be using Google Drive, you'll be using Google Docs, Gmail, Sheets, and so on. And they have published some fantastic new updates that allow you to use Gemini in a much more enhanced way in each of these tools. Now, they've only been launched to Google AI Ultra and Pro subscribers. And I have to say, it took me half an hour yesterday to work out if we were one of those at Koala, and we're not. I think this is so complicated in Google as to what licenses you've got for accessing AI. So at the moment, this is, if I go on to the next slide, says these features are starting to roll out. This was yesterday in beta and will be first available to Google AI Ultra and Pro subscribers, available in English globally for Docs, Sheets, and Slides, and in the US only for Google Drive. So if you don't see these yet, then that is why. But on these sort of screenshots I've given you here, just to give you a flavor of this. So up at the top is Google Sheets. And so the plugin on the right-hand side is going to allow you to either create new Google Sheets, so spreadsheets from scratch, or running analysis on existing Google Sheets that you've got. On the right-hand side, there was a little prompt that they had in their demo for Google Slides. Create a slide that shares this recap of the last 2 months. What I did quite like about the little demo that they showed here was that you can plug in different documents. So, for example, you might have written a Google Doc, which is your business plan, and now you want to turn that business plan into a slide deck. And this is where the AI comes in, that you'd hit that plus button at the bottom and you'll be able to add in the Google Doc, you'd be able to add in some websites, maybe a YouTube video, and it's going to be able to take that and turn it into your slides. Down at the bottom left was a little snapshot that I took from the little demo video of a Google Doc example. Can you write a coaching plan for my next baseball season? Was their scenario. Now, I do a lot of writing, and Caitlin and I have been doing a lot of work in building up our Claude skills for writing blog posts and newsletters. And we're putting a lot of effort into that because you can see AI writing, a mile off. And let me just give you this example of this writing a coaching plan for my next baseball season. If that's all you write and you expect to get a 10-page document that comes out of the back of it, well, other than these 9 or 10 words, Google is having to invent everything else. And how does it invent that? How does it know your style? How does it know what your previous coaching plan was? a lot of this comes into the context that you're going to provide or add in. But I'd just be very, very wary and practice and make sure you're providing the right context to these tools, whether it's building a spreadsheet or a slide deck or a Word document or a Google Doc. That if you provide a very short amount of input, you're going to get a very AI blancmange type of output. So that's Google's big update for the week. And as I say, should be arriving in a Google Workspace near you shortly. Next up was Microsoft. This was, I want to say, maybe, what day are we today? Wednesday. This might have been Monday that this came out. Oh, yeah, March the 9th, and it's the 11th today. So it was Monday. So this is Satya Nadella on the left-hand side, the CEO of Microsoft, announcing the catchily named Copilot Cowork, a new way to complete tasks and get work done in Microsoft 365. Now, for the astute among you, you go, well, how have they stolen the name from Anthropic? They've got Copilot. How can they copy Anthropic? Well, Anthropic have worked closely with Microsoft to roll out their version of Cowork. So now in Copilot, well, as it rolls out, you're able to do a bit of what we were looking at earlier on with assigning tasks, getting work done now in Microsoft. Now, I'm thinking about this, like, why would Anthropic be giving away or certainly partnering on some of their greatest differentiators? And I can only think this is some kind of sort of 4D chess move where they know they've got so much in their back pocket. Some of these future developments around Cowork and whatever else they're working on, that getting Anthropic and getting Cowork into the enterprise, into these lockdown companies that have to use Microsoft and Copilot, is some kind of long-term plan. But for me, I'm confident that the Anthropic Cowork is going to keep accelerating, way faster than the Microsoft one will. But if you're in Microsoft land, definitely take a look at that Cowork and start to play around with it. Next release for the week, ChatGPT rolled out Skills this week, long awaited. For those of you that have been following these sessions over the past few months, Skills was also created by Anthropic and has been in Claude since the end of last year. But Anthropic very quickly turned it into an open standard that any of the other providers could use. OpenAI have had it in their Codex coding platform for the past couple of months, and they've now rolled it out into ChatGPT. So if you're in a ChatGPT account, what you'll be able to do is to go to your icon, your avatar and your name down in the bottom left. You're going to click that. It will then open up the settings, and you'll now see this skills section on the left-hand side. Click skills, and it will open up a skill. So let me just show you one. Let me go. How's Claude getting on here? Elevated errors. Lovely. So let me go ChatGPT. So here I am in my ChatGPT. We got 5 minutes. Come on, ChatGPT. Right, here we are. And if I go to my skills here, and then this content writer skill, just like we looked at before, a skill is a collection of the skill.md file, which provides all of the instructions, and then all of these supplementary documents, in this case, for writing blog posts and newsletters that guide ChatGPT in terms of how to use this skill. So in exactly the same way, you're going to go to new chat. Hey, can you help me use the content writer skill to write a new newsletter? And it's going to do the same thing. It's going to pick up the skill and use the content writer skill and ask me some questions. If you're in ChatGPT and this is the first time you have come across skills and you want to build your first skill, then they have a skill creator skill. And you're going to find yourself using the word skill more than you've ever said it in the last 20 years of your life. But if I go, hey, can I use the skill creator skill to help me build a new HR onboarding skill for our employees? Then it is going to load up the skill creator skill and it is going to guide you through that process so that you can start to build your own skills. So think about your team, think about yourself, use that to start building out and creating your own skills and then sharing them with other people in your organization. Final update in AI in the news. Oh my goodness, there's been a lot this week. As part of their skills announcement, they also announced that they've rolled out ChatGPT for Excel. You may have seen in our finance session a few weeks back, we talked about Claude for Excel, and this is ChatGPT's answer to that. So you're going to go to the Microsoft Marketplace and install it. Depending on your Microsoft account, you might need to ask your admin to approve it. And you're then going to see it here in your ribbon in Office 365 or in when you've downloaded Excel. Now, caveat, today it's not available in the UK. So I believe it's available in the US, Canada, and maybe Australia at the moment. But be aware that it exists. Keep an eye on it, and I'll update you in the coming weeks when we see that we've got access for it if you are in the UK or Europe. We haven't really got time for questions, so we've covered a lot. If you have got a question, we've got 2 minutes, and feel free to go for it. But if not, next week, I'm going to go deep into my Cowork setup. I know I've touched on it a couple of times in today's session, and we ran a Cowork session only, I want to say maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. But just in the last couple of weeks, my use of Cowork has completely accelerated and transformed. And I'm now doing all of my Claude work. I say all, let's say 90% of my Claude work is in Cowork. And so I'm going to walk you through my setup, how I've structured my local laptop, my directories, some of the skills, and importantly, scheduled tasks that only landed about a week ago. And so I've now got automated tasks that are doing work and sending me emails and Slack messages without me having to do anything. So that'll be this time next week, March the 18th, 3 p.m. UK time and 10 a.m. Eastern time. And with that, that's a wrap on this week. Thanks so much for joining. Hope you learned something, and feel free to share this video when it's online in an hour or so with the rest of your people team. Thank you.